I always saw myself as a dedicated wife and mother. My marriage wasn't perfect, but it was steady and dependable. Over the years, my husband and I had fallen into a routine of living together, raising our kids, and sharing the day-to-day tasks. There wasn't much excitement, but I told myself that was just part of growing older together. My son Ethan had just turned 21, and his group of friends were always at our house. The sound of their laughter and the clink of beer bottles filled the living room every weekend. But I didn't mind. It was nice to see Ethan so happy, surrounded by people who cared about him. One of his friends, Ryan, stood out more than the others, though I couldn't quite figure out why. Ryan was tall with sandy blonde hair and had this relaxed charm that seemed to brighten the whole room. He was always polite and respectful, but there was something confident about him that caught my attention, even though it shouldn't have. He was 24, only a little older than Ethan, but there was something about him that made him hard to ignore. It all began on a quiet Saturday afternoon. Ethan and his friends were outside by the pool, tossing a football around and having fun. I was in the kitchen, preparing snacks for them, when Ryan walked in, drenched from the pool and shirtless. "Mrs. Carter," he said with a warm smile, "do you need any help?" I quickly waved him off, trying to keep my focus on the platter of sandwiches I was making. I was still arranging the snacks when Ryan spoke up. "No, thank you, Ryan. You should go back and enjoy yourself," I said, but he didn't leave. Instead, he leaned against the counter, watching me in a way that made my heart race. "You always take such good care of everyone," he said quietly. "You deserve to relax, too." His words took me by surprise, and for a moment I couldn't catch my breath. It wasn't just what he said, it was how he said it. His voice was soft and sincere, almost like he saw something in me that I hadn't noticed in myself for years. I tried to laugh it off, feeling awkward. "That's what moms do," I replied, hoping to keep the conversation light. But the way he looked at me made it hard to ignore the tension that was building between us. Over the next few weeks, I found myself paying more attention to Ryan. I noticed the way his laughter filled the room and how he always found reasons to stay near the kitchen whenever I was there. I told myself it was nothing, just a harmless crush that I would never act on. But deep down, I knew it was something more. Then, one evening, everything changed. Ethan had gone out with his friends, but Ryan stayed behind, saying he wasn't feeling well. I offered to make him some tea, and we sat together in the living room. The house felt unusually quiet without the usual sounds of kids laughing and talking. As we talked, I realized how easy it was to open up to him. He listened in a way my husband hadn't in years. His eyes stayed on mine, and I felt like he was truly hearing me. I told him about my frustrations, my fears, and the loneliness I hadn't even admitted to myself. When I finished speaking, he reached out and gently took my hand. "You're incredible, Mrs. Carter," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "You deserve to feel alive." Before I could respond, the air seemed to change, and I could feel something shifting between us. The next few days felt like a blur, the weight of what had happened between Ryan and me hanging over every moment. I tried to push it out of my mind, tried to convince myself that it was a mistake, a one-time lapse in judgment. But the truth was, I couldn't stop thinking about him, about how he made me feel, alive in a way I hadn't felt in years. Every time I saw Ryan, I felt that same pull, that same electric tension in the air. He would smile at me, his eyes filled with something I couldn't name, and I would feel my heart race all over again. It was impossible to ignore. I kept telling myself to stay strong, to focus on my family. But I couldn't. There was a part of me that kept reaching for that feeling again, the feeling of being wanted, of being seen. Then, one afternoon, I found myself in the kitchen again, preparing another snack for Ethan and his friends. As usual, the sound of laughter and the clinking of bottles filled the house. But today, it was quieter than before. Ethan had gone out with his friends again, and I thought Ryan might have left with them. But when I turned around, he was standing in the doorway, watching me. "Mrs. Carter," he said softly, his voice carrying a note of hesitation. "Can we talk?" My heart skipped a beat, and before I could stop myself, I nodded. "Sure." We sat down at the kitchen table, the quiet between us thick with unspoken words. Ryan's eyes were intense, his expression serious. "I can't stop thinking about what happened," he admitted quietly. "And I don't think you can either." I swallowed hard, my breath catching in my throat. The truth hung in the air like a heavy fog, and I knew there was no going back from it. "I don't know what to do," I whispered, more to myself than to him. "I'm married. I have a family. This can't happen again." Ryan reached across the table and gently took my hand, his touch sending a rush of warmth through me. "Maybe it doesn't have to end," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "Maybe you deserve something more than what you have. Maybe we deserve something real." His words struck a chord deep inside me, and for the first time, I felt a surge of hope. A part of me was terrified of where this could go, but another part, a part I hadn't listened to in years, wanted to believe that maybe he was right. "I don't know if I can do this," I said, shaking my head. "I'm afraid of what it will cost." Ryan's eyes softened. "I'm not asking you to throw everything away. I want you to feel like you matter. You deserve to feel something more." I wanted to pull away, to remind myself of the life I had built with Steve, of the responsibilities I had as a mother, a wife. But in that moment, with Ryan's gaze fixed on me, I couldn't deny that he was offering something I had been missing for so long, something I couldn't find in my everyday life. "I'm scared," I admitted, my voice trembling. "Scared of losing everything." Ryan gave me a small smile, but it was filled with understanding. "You won't lose everything. Not if you trust yourself." I didn't know what would happen next, but I felt a shift deep within me. The walls I had carefully built around my heart were starting to crumble, and for the first time in a long time, I wasn't sure what to hold on to. The lessons you can learn from this story is 1. The importance of self-awareness and honesty in relationships. One of the key themes in the story is the main character's struggle with her sense of self-worth. Over the years, she became accustomed to being a wife and mother, losing touch with her own desires and identity. The kiss with Ryan reignites something in her, but it also highlights how easy it can be to lose oneself in the routine of life. Moral lesson: it is essential to remain self-aware in relationships and honest with ourselves about our needs and feelings. This story teaches that neglecting our personal emotional needs can lead to a sense of emptiness or longing. When we don't address these needs, we may look for validation or fulfillment outside our relationships, leading to poor decisions. Open and honest communication, both with ourselves and others, is vital in maintaining healthy relationships. Taking time to nurture your individual identity beyond your roles as a partner or parent is important for your overall happiness and emotional well-being. Self-reflection can prevent feelings of neglect or resentment from building up. 2. The consequences of making decisions based on momentary emotions. The main character, although aware of the consequences, allows her emotions to lead her into a brief but intense affair with Ryan. In that moment, she feels desired and alive, but she struggles with the guilt and aftermath of her actions. Moral lesson: decisions based on immediate emotions can have long-lasting consequences. This story serves as a reminder that acting impulsively on desire or frustration can deeply affect our relationships and the people around us. It's easy to mistake temporary feelings for lasting truths, but actions often carry consequences that ripple through all aspects of our lives. Thoughtful reflection and self-control can prevent us from making choices that we might regret later. When facing intense emotions or temptations, it is important to pause and consider the full impact of our decisions. Emotions, though powerful, should be examined carefully rather than followed blindly. Asking ourselves what we truly want in the long run can help guide us to make better, more informed choices. Moral lesson: decisions based on immediate emotions can have long-lasting consequences. This story serves as a reminder that acting impulsively on desire or frustration can deeply affect our relationships and the people around us. It's easy to mistake temporary feelings for lasting truths, but actions often carry consequences that ripple through all aspects of our lives. Thoughtful reflection and self-control can prevent us from making choices that we might regret later. Reflection: when facing intense emotions or temptations, it is important to pause and consider the full impact of our decisions. Emotions, though powerful, should be examined carefully rather than followed blindly. Asking ourselves what we truly want in the long run can help guide us to make better, more informed choices. 3. The complexity of desire and the danger of disregarding boundaries. The story also explores the complexity of desire. While the protagonist feels attracted to Ryan and deeply craves the validation he offers, she also knows that stepping over certain boundaries could jeopardize everything she has built: her marriage, her family, and her reputation. Moral lesson: it is crucial to respect boundaries, both in relationships and within oneself. The story reveals the tension between desire and duty, showing how easy it is to blur the lines when someone feels neglected or undervalued. However, disregarding these boundaries, whether in marriage or in any committed relationship, can cause irreversible harm. Relationships are built on trust, and once that trust is broken, it can be very difficult to rebuild. Reflection: understanding and respecting personal and relational boundaries is key to maintaining integrity in relationships. Being aware of where your limits lie and respecting the limits of others is essential for fostering healthy, balanced connections. The complexity of human nature and moral choices. This story intricately portrays the moral conflict between desire, loyalty, and self-worth. While it's easy to judge the characters' actions as wrong, they reflect a very human struggle, trying to balance personal desires with responsibility and commitment. The story emphasizes that everyone is complex, and decisions can often be shaped by unmet needs, insecurities, and emotional longing. It is important to consider these complexities, but it's also crucial to face the consequences of our choices and learn from them.